All right, welcome everyone, constant student community and YouTube community, wherever you're watching this. Liam, Oscar, and myself, Joe, are here. This is a recording on 5 ways NFTs can accelerate your income by 5+ years. It'll be broadly applicable, but in particular, I think writers, musicians, and podcasters will be the beneficiaries. So I hope you guys are excited. Thanks for jumping on with this. It is a big topic and a big buzzword right now. So today we'll cover part 1, simply, what's an NFT? You may have heard of it, you may have even bought ones, but you may not even have a deep understanding of the concepts behind them. Even though that might be the boring part, we will it'll be pretty exciting actually, unpacking that a bit, thanks to Oscar. And then 5 applications of how this will be relevant to you. All right, so you're hearing these things, but why are there more powerful possibilities other than pretty pictures you can make and buy? There's a bit of a rabbit hole. So it's run by us, Joe Eby, co-founder of the community, and Oscar, you're the weatherman. Do you want to explain what you're up to with the podcast and everything at the moment?
With the podcast, we're exploring mainly Web3 right now and other sort of big opportunities in the startup space. And yeah, we're really looking forward to launching soon.
Awesome. So Oscar's website will be in the show notes or description wherever you're watching this, and you can follow that journey, oscarweby.com.
Yeah, I just want to add to that. I think with the brief conversations I've had with Oscar, I was pretty much in the dark with it and I lost a lot of the concepts, but Oscar really brought it down to like helping me understand the basics and the fundamentals. And then I think he'll take it one step further as well. So I just wanted to chime in there.
Yes.
Thanks, Liam.
He's good. And I think there's something to be said about, there's a lot of these things flying around at the moment, but it can be complex. So it's hard to find people who can really break it down and democratize it for you. So Oscar, you want to run through some disclaimers since you're the investing guru here?
All right. Well, as you can see on the screen, this is not investing advice. This is a very young and emerging space, so there's really no definites yet. We are those who decide to get involved are the early adopters. Enter at your own risk, for sure.
Exactly. So no need to rush in. This is not some craze to jump in on and go nuts on. Be considered. We'll have resources. If you're a community member, you can talk to someone like Oscar or myself or anyone who might be dabbling in the space to see how you can contextualize this. Anyway, that's the boring stuff. Let's get into it. So I'm going to start with, if you couldn't tell who this was, Liam, as we were discussing before, this is J.K. Rowling, author of the famous Harry Potter series, amongst other books. And what a lot of people might forget about someone like J.K. Rowling is that she used to rely on welfare benefits in the UK as a desperate single mother to get by while she was transitioning into the long journey of writing this book. So we'll talk a bit more about the challenges later, but for people who are doing some of these writing-based or more artistic careers, it can be real delayed. There can be a big delay to a payoff, basically. And so this is a really, really powerful way of potentially accelerating, making life easier for those people. Also probably rescuing people who would never actually end up expressing themselves because they can't overcome these obstacles and hurdles. So thinking about the net creative contribution to society unlocked by this technology, if we're able to do that, 5+ years is the title, right, Oscar? I don't think that's an exaggeration, potentially more for a lot of people. And it doesn't factor in people who would never go down these paths, who will now be able to, thanks to this sort of technology and the concepts. So if you need to understand why it's important, and think about figures like J.K. Rowling or Charles Bukowski, people who've had to starve for their art because of the nature of these industries, how long it takes to break in, luck and risk involved. This is hopefully a powerful transition out of that. So, Oscar, what is an NFT?
All right, an NFT, or non-fungible tokens, as you can see, is basically a digital asset class built on the blockchain, really. There are instances of it not being on the blockchain, but in this context, it's important. And what each NFT is sort of, it belongs to a unique address. It's a one of a kind, can't be copied or tampered with, essentially. So the big sort of concept, as you've moved to, is the idea of fungibility, right? There are lots of different examples of this in the world, but the basic definition is fungibility is the ability to sort of put things together or divide them apart. So gold is the prime example. You can melt gold together and split it apart by cutting it up or melting it. It's probably easier. Whereas cash, you can turn two $5 bills into a $10 bill, but you can exchange them. They have equal value. You can't put two $5 bills together and rub them together and somehow make a tenner. Right?
And call it 55.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So that's a Muggle World example. We're trying to make this as simple as possible.
Yeah.
Fungibility is the first thing. NFT, the F, and that's the non. So that's a Muggle World example. There's a few more examples, Oscar.
Yeah. Well, the big one for fungibility is Bitcoin. Originally, that wasn't the case. You could really only there were 21 million in circulation, but now that they can be divided up into pieces and put together, you can sort of accumulate like 1% of a Bitcoin, 0.5% of a Bitcoin.
So that's the breaking apart. That's the breaking apart.
The one question.
Yeah.
Yep.
Excuse my ignorance, but the one question that I would have is, with $100, aren't $1 essentially like fungible to that, or is it the actual like hard tangible asset?
It's the hard tangibility of it.
Good question.
So they have equal value. You're right in saying that, like 100 ones and a 100. But yeah, there's no physical sort of process of turning 100 $1 bills into a $100 bill. Is that clear?
But with Bitcoin, you can have 100 or a lot of those pieces. Then
you can have 0.6 of a big. You can, as you'll see in any other coins and stuff.
Yeah.
Water is also fungible. As a good visual example of this, you can bring water together and break it apart. So I thought that was a pretty good example, Oscar, that you came up with in prep for this. And then you've got the non-fungible side, still examples from the Muggle world.
Yeah, so the house is an interesting one. And I think it's actually it relates well to NFTs because you can actually copy a house, but again, it's not the original house.
So 123 Smith Street in Sydney, right? You can copy the house. So say that's the house that's on 123 Smith Street, right?
Yeah.
You can copy that house and put it in Adelaide, Los Angeles. You can copy it exactly, but it will have a unique identifying address of 123 Smith Street.
Yeah.
And that's essentially, from what I understand, the blockchain part of NFTs. That's the role it's playing. It's the specific, can't copy it address. You can have a 123 Smith Street in another, whatever, in France, but you really can't copy an address in the real estate world. So that is actually very good example.
Yeah. And again, houses, cars, paintings, you can't split them apart and put them together. Is that, especially if you split them apart, they literally become worthless almost.
Exactly. Yeah. Especially Picasso paintings.
Yeah.
Although maybe some art you can't tell.
Yeah.
All right. So taking this online, taking these concepts online is basically the whole point of the NFT, right? Taking the advantages of a house, right? So thinking about a house as an investment, even if you're on a street, right? You have houses on one street, but one house might be particularly beautiful. That creates a unique value. There's even though we have property markets, you can keep shrinking property markets down, right? Like one street on one side of a suburb that's near a train station will be worth more than probably one that's near a garbage dump on the other side of town. So you can keep going narrower and narrower. You can keep going narrower and narrower till you get to a specific property as the unique nature of property. And obviously a lot of people associate NFTs with art. And again, there is an element of that involved, but it is beyond art. But, art has this unique character and story that seems to create and sustain and hold value. So just really going to the fundamentals here. This is not like school. We're going to give you the strategies that you can just memorize. And that's how if you really grasp what's the core of this, you'll be able to tactically operate much better, because you're going to have to come up with if you're going to use this stuff, you have to come up with the way you use it, basically. So having some grasp of the fundamentals is probably pretty useful. Anything else to add on that, Oscar?
I think that's definitely solid.
Okay. So Oscar, go through this. What's new about NFTs? The fact that we can now do a version of this online on this weird, whatever the blockchain is to people. What's new about it? What are the advantages?
Okay, so the main sort of value adds is traceability and authentication. You know, you can track who made it, you can track the chain of custody, and that helps with sort of verification, authentication, and sort of promoting the honest status symbol, right? If you want sort of an NFT that was created by Gary V or something like that, it's easy to trace the fact that this is in fact a V friend, I think it is, rather than some sort of copy.
Say like it's even better than probably a house. It's almost like a house built by a certain architect. Like you really have to trace that to the property address.
Yeah.
So yeah. That's the one that Harry Seidler built, for example.
Yeah.
Like it's just no doubt because you've got the address that links back. All right, go to distribution.
Yeah, so distribution overlaps with really all of the other things on this slide, as well as security. And it's basically the main value add for sort of the blockchain ecosystem with NFTs is that previously an artist would have to go through a bunch of sort of curation obstacles and rabbit holes to distribute their art originally. Whereas in a decentralized marketplace with very rigorous authentication procedures, they're able to distribute that art to a variety of people with low barrier to entry. And as we covered, authentication is a given.
Yep, very nice. Decentralization.
Yes, so low barriers to entry.
Big
really
theme in the blockchain world.
Yeah, theme. The only sort of curation that goes on is whether or not what you're selling or minting or creating is in fact an NFT, right? So that there have been examples where things have been taken off the marketplace because the governance system is determined that what you're selling isn't in fact a non-fungible token. So it has to fit that description to be listed, but apart from that, it's pretty much free reign up until this point.
Yeah.
So like I couldn't take pictures of $1 bills, the same $1 bill, and just keep putting it up as an NFT as an example of like that's not a non-fungible token if I'm trying to post it in.
No, that would be a non-fungible token because, well, depends. If it's a plain picture, maybe not, but they all still have individual addresses or signatures. Okay. So they're still technically individual. The example that I'm struggling to think of is, so the interactive qualities of what this person is listing, it didn't quite fall under the umbrella of non-fungible tokens. They sort of transformed in a way, or you could duplicate them. So
getting technical then.
Yeah, it's very
It's hard to fuck up. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, hard to do. Only one example that we can that we've seen. Really.
Yeah, and then I think the other point was security of this stuff.
Yeah,
kind of like a digital signature. Like I don't know if anyone's aware of Pixabay that is listening to this or watching this. I use that to get like kind of royalty-free images and stuff, and they give a shout out to the artist who made them. But then, you know, it's not really like this tangible link. They just mention them. They might link to their Instagram. Doesn't really matter for stock photos. But if you wanted to like authenticate, like we talked about in that first point about traceability, if you want to authenticate this person made it, like Gary V made it or something like that, you want to have the security of that, especially if you pay, we'll get into the examples, millions or of dollars for these things to justify it. Just the same way you'd want to verify, this is the real Mona Lisa, or this is the real whatever Claude Monet painting or something. So that pretty much covers it, right? That's the digital application. Okay, so we talked about Oscar. It's beyond art.
Yeah.
Everyone will think that'll be the first use case everyone thinks of is these are pictures that I can make. They look cool. Maybe I can sell them. There's probably 6 types. You know, we did a bit of research so far. We're going to concentrate on the highlighted ones there today.
Yeah.
For these kind of the use case of writers, podcasters, probably photographers, artists, musicians, so that the art and collectible kind of a little bit go hand in hand. They make a lot of sense with the existing world. If you think about art and collectible pieces in the Muggle world, for lack of a better term, pretty much the same thing. And then utility NFTs, which is utility just means you can use it for something in particular. I can use, you know, one of Claude Monet's paintings to put up in my house, right? It's not the biggest utility thing, whereas these things can actually be useful and unlock things and act like key cards and stuff. So we'll go through the examples. The first example is the digital art example, Oscar.
Yeah.
Go over what we're looking at.
Okay. On the right is probably the first time people would have heard of NFTs. It was this basically a collage of photos went to $69 million. It's crazy. That happened a couple of years ago. The Bored Apes, which is what's on the left of the screen, right? Those really came to prominence in 2021 when NFTs really started exploding and sort of coming into their disruptive phase. And originally they seemed purely aesthetic, and sort of have become status symbols. And that's been enhanced by the celebrity culture that's around them, as well as the use cases of like getting into exclusive parties in New York and going to these cool bars and stuff like that. So Steph Curry, one of the buyers of Bored Apes, YouTubers and other influencers and mainstream public figures have all been buying, well, not all of them, but a lot of them have been buying into Bored Apes, and their value has skyrocketed. So collectively they're worth over $1 billion today. The average sale price would have been around $1,000 to begin with, and now I don't think you can get one for less than $200,000 US. So
Wow. Sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's because obviously Steph Curry's bought one of these. So people buying it, it's like a signaling thing.
Yeah.
That's where the value is coming from. It's one of the reasons where the value, it's that, you know, I'm now on this level. And be able to say that to people.
Status sells, huh?
Status is powerful.
Like this thing isn't exclusive to NFTs. Like if a certain celebrity wears a dress by a specific designer at this show, value goes up.
Cars,
status signals are everywhere. So
this is not new.
This isn't new.
So it's the same dynamics that drive a lot of it.
Yeah.
So, all right, art is a pretty straightforward one because the concept's not really that different. It's just obviously if there's a finite amount of things and it's digital, then you can still get the same art world effects. But this is probably more interesting, utility. And if you want to relate again back to the beautiful Muggle world, this is equivalent to membership cards, coupons, cards, vouchers. This is the sort of like NFTs can also be used, like we use these things in the real world to unlock and get into certain places. These things can be like those things online, really unlock things. And normally so far on the internet, that's been password and email, paying for something, then having a login, you know, like your Facebook login or your constant student login or something like that. So this is very interesting that this has now evolved too. There are some key examples, right? Like access to private communities, crowdfunding, lifetime memberships. These are some
which
examples.
communities?
Sorry?
Yeah, Joe, do you know which communities are mostly using them now, or it's sort of succeeded for? I know you mentioned gaming communities, but have there been any like educational ones that you know?
Yeah. We'll go through one in a bit, actually. We'll go through a very clear example and I'll show you exactly how it's being used. I'll keep everyone listening on the hook for that. Yeah, but we've got a couple of examples here. So Oscar, this one we thought was pretty cool.
Yeah.
You want to go through it a bit? It's a pretty simple concept.
So Crypto Baristas, I think based in New York. New York. So what it was a crowdfunding initiative to help the sort of the startup cost of of the coffee shop sort of beginning phase, building it, rental, all that sort of, all the nitty-gritties of a coffee business. I'd hate to be part of it, but what the incentive for the buyers was lifetime coffee perk from the creators of the NFT in exchange for helping to fund, which is cool. Yeah,
it's pretty cool. It was even more than that. They had a whole bunch of, but obviously it's also there. I think what we'll keep coming back to, Oscar, it's the way that you actually get to facilitate that.
Yeah.
So it's not even just come down and we're going to open this coffee shop and everyone chips something and you'll get, it's the fact that you get this artistic kind of thing as the, I don't know, the access card or whatever, as the interface. And then this is something so there's an emotional part to that utility as well.
It's like,
which amplifies the experience, really.
Yeah. It's also kind of like the platinum card that like the big businessmen get. They get to sort of whip it out. Wow.
That's true.
But I think this is really cool. We want to paint the contrast that the old ways of, coffee shops, right? How many coffee shops are there in New York?
Yeah.
Try getting a loan. What's the other way you fund that?
Impossible.
If you don't have the capital, right? Getting a loan for a business loan, like forget about it. Very stressful process and hard to get, and probably on bad terms.
Yeah, banks are like, they're extremely stingy when it comes to business loans. Like,
so much risk. Whereas this actually brings the sort of experience that actually creates a unique story around this coffee shop, which actually probably boosts its brand and its chances of viability and success. So it's a very cool story. It's like the ongoing involvement as well. NFTs can be a gateway into a community space.
I believe they have
on some decisions.
Proposals.
So it's pretty cool. Another utility example, Liam, this is probably something of an example of a community one, is, Gary V set up V Friends. I just moved the camera and see our faces so you can see that. It's basically, it's not the most complex community. It's basically get access to community and events that like Gary V puts on, also going over the NFTs and stuff. There's a whole line of NFTs he's released for that. Access to events and conferences. Be thinking about how that's different to just having a ticket. Like once you've done with a ticket, I keep tickets to, I don't know, a soccer game I went to maybe a couple of years ago, but I don't think it'd be worth very much. Whereas your ticket is this ongoing like asset in a way, right? It has this whole lifespan and it's used as your gateway in. So we've emphasized there, it's something probably you could sell, right? And it creates this exit strategy rather than just saying, hey, everyone who signs up to my thing gets to come to my events.
That's so cool. And then with the specific NFTs that people get given, say, I don't know, I just see V Friends and I see like a monkey here. So when someone enters it, does each person get a unique ticket to them, or do they get the same ticket, but it's the NFT for the organization? Do you know what I mean?
It depends how it's been released, but you can do a range. I'm not 100% sure with his one, I'm not up to date, but you can do a range. You can do a combination of both. You can have one line, which is the same thing, but the individual address, like 100 of the same one. So
because I'm saying
I'll show you a good example later from Trends. They just have a variation of the same design every week on their newsletter. Anyway, so this is just a summary of this whole, it's a pretty important part one. I know we want to get into the 5 ways, specifically for the writers, podcasters out there and artists. But the recap is, right, the difference between fungible and non-fungible as the foundations, right? Things that can be pulled together and split apart. The value of this derives from the fact that they are probably, from these examples, most like houses, right? And think about the value that's normally held in houses. It's normally considered very robust, questionable, but we'll go down that rabbit hole. And it is obviously investing, it's all perceptual. And then obviously we're going to concentrate on collectibles plus utility NFTs. They're the most useful for the people that I expect are watching this, right? And those were the examples, monkeys, coffee, Gary V. All right. So let's get into it. 5 ways NFTs can accelerate your journey. So go back to this writing problem. right? I just pick the writer because that's the one that's closest to my heart. And as you guys are both writers, you guys are both podcasters as of very soon, Oscar. And you know that it is a rewarding path. It's a path that can contribute a lot to society, but it's also got a long burn. And these are some of the challenges.
Just a few of them.
Just a few of them. And I could probably go on, but this is the challenge of these pathways. And again, incredibly useful to society. All these things, bringing new thoughts, ideas, it's a creativity goldmine. But I think some of the ones I'll pick out, obviously, is an obvious one is the size of the audience you would need to monetize it. Very hard for me with 100 email subscribers to monetize my writing in a very direct way. Very hard with, right, not even that easy. Podcasters, right? Is 500 listeners enough to get a sponsor? Right. But then, so you also fall into these challenges of where do you get feedback and validation? So you're improving. Most people do it as a very solitary thing without a feedback loop. Musicians, I'm sure, in the same bucket. The temptation to resort to clickbait and compromise what you're actually writing about, the agony of trying to find a niche and all that, as you're trying to every week figure out, how do I do this? External effort you have to put into doing it to get reach. I won't keep going because anyone who's somewhat started this process will be familiar with the pain points. What if it's all about to change? What if it's all about to change? So these are the 5 ways. We're going to go through each of these. All right. So that's going to be good fun. It won't take us too long. And we're going to start with this first one, 100 true fans. Smaller, viable audience. So this is Lee Jin. I think you both know, or you might both know who this is, but Oscar, I think unpack this 100 true fans versus 1,000 true fans.
Yeah, so 1,000 true fans is basically a model for monetizing your audience, again, with the smaller scale in mind, assuming that you're not going to reach the millions and millions that sort of the heavy hitters get. And Lee Jin obviously went a step further using NFTs, cutting that down by 90%. And like this is her shtick. Like, she's all about the passion economy, and she wants to sort of give agency to people to pursue their passions, and that she's given this pretty simple and effective model for monetizing yourself on such a small scale. And like, her target is $100,000 a year. Yeah, if you can get by on less, then you don't even need 100 fans, or you don't even need to sell your NFTs for that much. So the basic model is, instead of trying to bring people a large audience in, and as a result you can't really hit a lot of depth with your content, you do focus on a specific niche and cater for a much smaller percentage of the available market out there that you can possibly acquire. And instead of sort of broad informational stuff, you can provide much more direct value add through, you know, catering for opportunities and actual dialogue between creator and audience. And the way you gate that is with NFTs. She proposes the model of 100 NFTs for $1,000 each, but again, each to their own. And you can make a living off a lot fewer fans and have extremely high value content.
Yeah, I want to recap this. So it's like 1,000 true fans. Liam, you're very aware of it. Kevin Kelly, very famous article. People like Seth Godin, Tim Ferriss always really emphasize this. People with big audiences say you got to start small. Tim Ferriss wrote the 4-Hour Work Week for 2 people in mind. It sells to this day in large volumes. So, but this was always seen as the limit, right? You know, you don't need millions. You can 1,000. You can probably make it if you've got 1,000 true fans. So, you know, what if, as a thought experiment, this has this barrier, which was so accepted and, you know, lauded by people, has reduced by 90%. What if that means 90% of the people, this might be faulty math, but 90% of the people who otherwise didn't get to make a living from their whatever writing, podcasting, music, creative outlet, is now 90% more people who can actually make it through. in an acceptable time frame. So that's exciting. So I just give real specifics, right? Because then it's like, how do you do that? Then again, don't let this limit your imagination. Be willing to see things that haven't been done before. So this is an example from Legion's newsletter, right? So she'll send through like a newsletter, an article. So email subscribers, right? Very simple. Substack. Liam's on Substack. Oscar's use Substack. I use Substack. Not a technical platform. Get set up. It's just email, distributed via email. And then basically what she does, she'll just have the NFT. She'll have a picture of it. That's not the actual thing, obviously. And then you go to the platform. She uses Mirror. And that's where people can go bid and buy it.
And it's just one each time, right? Like there won't be like...
You can do multiple.
Okay.
You can do multiple. So if you think about it, all right, why the hell would I buy this? We'll come to that in the next example on Patronage Plus. But I did one together just for the sake of this presentation. So I set up a crypto wallet. I set up an account on OpenSea.
How much are you selling it for, Joe?
That's wrapped ETH. So it's about $120. That's the minimum bid. I put it up for an auction. My expectations are not big. I, didn't do a proper campaign. I just really wanted it for a demonstration for this, but I will persist. I will persist with these because basically you look at it. Okay. So
if anyone is watching, that's a bargain. I think I'll buy it before you get it.
I'll probably buy one too.
Now.
Yeah. Okay. So here's the thought experiment. 100 true fans. Right. Yeah. I don't have a massive readership on my thing. All right. The quality is, everyone keeps giving me lovely feedback. Quality is great, but quality is not necessarily correlated to growth. It's related, but it's not linear. It's not the better it is, the better it will grow, because you actually have to get an initial kick with writing or podcasting so that shareability can just take over. All right. You can't just write in a room, press publish and expect everyone to just find it. This is the challenge. But you might look at someone and say, wow, is this person going to be significant in the future? Are they going to have bigger appeal or less? So this is the case. So this is, say I'm persisting. I've done one book. I've got a daily podcast. I've done 200 episodes. So consistency seems to be there, right? So, what sort of trajectory am I on? And I'm just using myself in this example, and then, would this be worth more than that in future or less? Right? So this is the example around if you are this sort of person who can start to show by your just very small reputation that you are proactive about what you do, you're consistent, and you're going to continue to improve. You probably have a compelling narrative to people around you who might want to kind of back you in this way. But it's also giving me, if someone buys this, say I get $300, that's $300 in the pocket.
And you can sell it through dollars, through crypto, through ETH.
It's through crypto. The nature of ETH is a type of, crypto. But then obviously I have to do the whole exchange and turn it. It's like moving US dollars to Aussie dollars. There's transaction fees of moving it out there. So it's not like, but in the future, I'm sure more and more things you'll be able to pay for with ETH, with whatever, right? As we get more and more crypto lit going forward. So, the way I've done it, I'm doing this series on thought leaders, right? This is the Taleb one. I'll probably do one per thought lead. I'm not expecting to sell this on my 1 week auction, right? I did it for a demonstration, but also.
But what platform did you create your NFT on? Was it Canva?
That is Canva, brother.
Really?
That is Canva. I've written here, this is not a technical process.
Yeah.
There's no coding. I'm not a sophisticated graphic designer. If you want, you can pay someone to do it.
What website did you use to post it on?
This is called OpenSea.
OpenSea, okay.
Very simple. Mirror, OpenSea. They're big marketplaces for selling NFTs. Right? Kind of like, I don't know, the Airbnb, but for NFTs, except you're not hiring, you're buying. Amazon, I don't know. So this is not technical. Like apart from setting up the wallet, that was actually the most time consuming thing. It's like creating a new, I don't know, it's like creating it's still probably easier than setting up a foreign bank account. So put that into context. It's a different currency. So the process of this is almost like 10 minutes.
Okay.
Obviously it's not the most sophisticated design. And then I've just uploaded it, put in the details, set a price. The logistics are not hard. And then I just put at the top of my newsletter for this week and a link to it. All right, that's the distribution mechanism for now. Maybe I would have posted it in other places if I was more active about it, sent it to friends, who knows. So I'll keep moving on, but let's just think about this comparatively to some of the other options. All right, so say if it's a podcast sponsorship, right? The question is, how many actual listeners do you need to monetize a podcast? All right, so if you assume like, use this model, maybe it was CPM, cost per milli, can't remember what that is. Numbers are there. If it's 10,000 times, that's $300 to get 10,000. I don't even have that many plays like historically yet. That's not even in 1 week to sell something. So I'm personally a long way away from that, unless I do something explosive. Whereas, the 100 True Fans model with NFTs can potentially save years of get to $300 maybe this week. If someone wanted to come, if two people were bidding each other up to 300. This is very powerful. Very powerful. Think about YouTube partnership program as another common, everyone's.
Also, it's so much more valuable. It's so much easier because if I think about it, if say, Joe, you get some celebrity, like say Taleb sees that thing and goes, you know what, I actually want to buy my own one. then that would go up exponentially more than if Taleb just listens to your podcast and just promotes it to his listeners, You're
like right.
Then
There's
people
explosive potential with this too. Yeah, exactly. Especially when you're an early adopter in something. Tim Ferriss set up a podcast very early. Joe Rogan set up a podcast very early. When there's no downside, there's advantages to being early. It's normally a very asymmetric bet. What I mean is there's low downside, but big, you can win big. What does this cost me to do? Like it's nominal. I just have to set up the wallet. YouTube, for example, thinking about there's all these other platforms you're dealing with. You have to get to 1,000 subscribers. The rate is vague. How much do you earn? There's valid watch hour requirements. There's policies, what you can say and cover. TikTok, I know you can't, I think, advertise financial products and stuff. So if you're ever relying on other platforms' direct monetization program, which is still hard to get to, you still have to work hard on that platform. And then you obviously have their policies. Whereas this is again, the security we think is going to be much stronger with NFTs.
So do you think what could be potentially, I'm just thinking about like applications, is like almost if you created as each thumbnail was an NFT in and of itself. And then the person's design, they buy that.
Honestly, yeah. Honestly, but I wouldn't do that because of a daily podcast. Oh, but maybe I should. I mean, if I designed the thumbnail anyway, why don't I just mint them all? And it's called minting. Yeah. I probably will.
Because then
I'll put it at the end of the episodes.
Like imagine if
I was thinking about supply and demand. Yeah.
Viral.
It's true.
Yeah.
It's true.
Okay. Interesting.
Good idea. Good idea. So that's 1 of 5. Oh, Oscar explained the royalties thing. But wait, there's more. It's the game show line.
Royalties is basically once you've created and sold your NFT initially, you get a transaction fee, or royalty in this case, for every time that specific NFT is traded between other parties, right?
Ah.
So if you look at this from like a stock market perspective, like once a company issues their shares and sells it, that's the only time that they can actually accrue capital from their shareholders. Every other sale after that is just, they have no upside from. So in terms of a value accrual strategy of giving someone sort of a share in your project, this has much more upside for creators.
Yeah, big time. So imagine Liam buys my NFT and then he sells it to Oscar in 6 months because he wants to buy something else. Yeah. I can attach a percentage so that when you sell it to Oscar, I get 5% of that sale. So if you sell it to him for 10,000, say you sell it to, let's make it not crazy, $1,000, right? So what, 5% of that is $50.
Yeah.
I haven't done nothing, and that's just a nominal amount. Imagine in future, it's someone sells it for $10,000. It's now $500, I think.
Wow.
For me, sitting there, and royalties is not a new concept. Musicians, I think a lot of actors and stuff, film industry, there's royalties, putting it in everyday people's hands.
Yeah. So with that, do you get to choose on the platform, or is it automatically you get
You can
royalties?
choose.
Okay.
You choose. You might incentivize people by not having royalties because they're like, if I sell this, I won't have to give him a cut. But, 1%, I don't know.
Yeah, it's so good because then that's compounding.
Yeah.
If you keep over time. So most people, I'm sure, want to opt into that.
Yeah. Oscar, do you want to introduce Patronage Plus? This is our second one.
Well, this is sort of the other side of the coin, right? We've looked at it from the creator side. This is now the buyer incentive, right? Who wouldn't want to buy Da Vinci's first painting for $200, right? It's the same concept as sort of buying someone like an up and coming artist's painting, right? As their name becomes big, the value of the art increases, right? The painting hasn't changed, right? But its price goes through the roof. So same sort of concept. And as you can see, I don't know how much Da Vinci's Mona Lisa went for initially. It wasn't $200, but now worth.
Well, he died and they just took it. So it's not even.
There you go.
But that's not his first painting, obviously. Either.
Yeah.
Well, that's the rough estimate of its current value.
Yeah, it's nuts.
Rough. There was an insurance quote in 1962, and that's been adjusted for inflation. So whatever.
Yeah.
Numbers are numbers. They make people pay attention.
Yeah.
I'm going to explain this a bit. I want to walk through this. So if anyone, for constant student members that watch this, I'm sure they're glad they got in early. Think about this concept. So can you see that? So that's my NFT, right? Say I'm not in the community already. Say I'm a new person. Okay, we'll walk you through this scenario. I'm a young person. My name's Joe Blogs, and I come in and I'm interested in writing. I'm interested in alternative education. I want to write books and all that, right? That's my dreams. I come in here a nobody. I've just finished high school. I've written a couple of blogs. I've made my first NFT. That's it, right? I got 50 email subscribers. Not many true fans, whatever. But people can tell I'm going places. Let's say they believe in me. So come into something like the community. Now, someone in the community, or the community as a group, if you want to organize that way, which we can, I won't ever complicate it. Say say Oscar's in this community. He sees this guy's got potential. He buys his first NFT for $200, equivalent to buying Da Vinci's first artwork. Then what he does, we've got a whole community of very proactive people in the constant student, right? We've got podcasters. We've got writers. We've got self-published authors. We've got people who've done TEDx talks, right? We've got people who are also growing, right? So now Joe Blogs has this whole network of people who can interview him on their podcast, give him feedback, introduce him to guests, tell him to start a podcast, advise him on how he can share his work with more people, how he can make it better. So think about improvement and distribution, learning, support, but also access to distribution, acting like a distribution channel, right? Because it's kind of like, if Naval Ravikant says, Tim Ferriss, I'm releasing a book, Tim Ferriss go, yeah, sure, come on. I've got big reach. I've got 70+ million downloads. I'll help you get the book out there. Same concept. Now, the thing is, once you do all that, you've now helped develop Joe Blogs. So what's this worth now? This first NFT you bought for $200. Right?
Way more.
way more. So now we come to the power of communities, especially online communities where you have just more direct access to wherever these people are in the world. You can do it from anywhere. Constant students are in India, Africa, South America, whatever. That's just our example. This is something we'll actively be doing. almost maybe create a service for people to help set up their whatever wallets. When your first NFT is done, whatever, I might buy all of them myself and try and fend off Oscar. But it's also a good incentive for a young person to get their act together. Because I'm not going to buy it for someone who's kind of whatever lazy and so it's not just anyone is going to make a mint just putting a JPEG on the internet. But I really believe, think about how people with this model will be able to create a living much simpler in high creative contribution areas, monetizing their ideas and ways of thinking and accelerating their impact in the world by a factor of God knows. So that is Patronage Plus. Now we'll go into the specifics. Oscar, you might want to run through this, just talking about the contrast, because patronage is not new.
Yeah. Well, again, there's a lot of alignment with normal patronage, but with support to the creator and so the contribution of the supporter. You know, they sort of have a quasi relationship with the creator that they're following, and they want to support. But it's more out of generosity. There's no alignment of the incentive structure really when it comes to supporting whatever creator you're following. So Patronage Plus adds a monetary incentive to that, and again, you can see the big difference there. Supporters get a financial benefit.
Yeah, exactly. So Liam, if Liam was on Patreon and said, you know, hey everyone, I want to spend more time doing my podcast, but obviously I have lifestyle expenses, so I will create this Patreon. You can pay me, if you pay me $100 a month, I'll do a Q&A session with you every month, and I'll give you first access to my new articles. I'll let you come into recordings with a guest and ask questions. You create benefits for people who support you, right? You can do all that. That's something you can do with Patreon now. That's an existing website, or you got a whole heap of options. You need incredibly creative. Now, people can all do that, and that kind of works for some people, right? But here, you can do all the same stuff, but all those people are almost investing in you. Coming back to that, you know, that Joe Blogs example. So it's all the same thing. You can give them benefits. You can give them access to this extra thing to incentivize them to, in this case, in the NFT world, buy your NFT. But you can also add the fact that they can sell that NFT some other point in the future and take a profit. It's almost like turning people into mini startups, and you're able to almost invest in the person. Like investing in a startup and then selling that stake later on, selling the part you own of Facebook years later for a profit. Except in this case, you don't even really own, unless there's an option, you can let them own a portion of something if you want to, but they don't necessarily need to own you or your work or a part of your work. But you could also do that. So that's the difference between what exists now with the patronage concept and the plus. It's powerful.
With the Patronage Plus, have Patreon actually created a new platform called
No. This is the concept. This is the conceptual name.
Yeah,
it's a good idea. Good idea, though, Liam. But you'd probably get hit. They'd probably try and snap it up.
Okay. Yeah, because it's powerful.
Incredibly powerful. Oscar, ticketing and access. I think pretty simple one. Maybe just rehash it. It's kind of like the Gary Vee example, isn't it, Oscar?
Yeah, it's like it can be built on top of frameworks that are already sort of around today, but when it comes to the creator audience relationship, it's another sort of layer to Patronage Plus, where 100 True Fans, where you give the buyers of the NFTs, your true fans, access to certain events, communities, perks, and other sort of upsells through the NFT.
Yeah. So Liam, obviously we run a community, and I was thinking about this as an example. So we could give to bring mentors into our community, right? Like, all right, we don't want to, they shouldn't be charged the way another community member is, because it's not like they're kind of receiving the same kind of service. But what you could do is you could create a mentor NFT, mentors of constant student. So that's their unique thing. Maybe there's only 8 of them. And you give it to them so they're kind of really invested in the journey. And then part of it is you just give access. Now, on the logistic level, I showed you again my example that I made on OpenSea. And it's literally same thing, but you just, there's a part where you put in an access link to whatever you want to give them access to once they've bought this NFT.
Okay, that's cool. So then with the access link, would you give them the password then, like say they're jumping into the community? Would you give them the password, or does the access link with the NFT automatically bring
Well,
it in?
say for us, it'd be something like a particular link to sign up that doesn't have a credit card
Okay.
attached or something like that, right? But
isn't that quite, I'm just thinking, can that be quite dangerous? Because if someone buys the NFT and then say they've got that free access link, you want them to have the password and the code, because you don't want them just sending through that access. Like the access link's a lot more spreadable.
yeah, but you, depending on what you're giving them access to, right?
Okay.
You can gate it so that the NFT acts as it's like the access card.
Okay.
Right. That's the advantage of this. This is why you can do it this way. It's more secure instead of relying on trust of people not sending it around.
Yeah.
So it's technical, and it probably works with certain platforms. And so that's why, you know, certain platforms are more useful for this and some don't really facilitate it. But, you know, give the example, right? So Liam, Loma, who we've used for events before, this is just a platform, right, where people can run events and communities and stuff. They already have an option where it will scan your wallet for the token to join. Yeah. So the platform does need to correspond. Let me make that clear, right? This is the example I was referencing before. So Trends community, right? So this is just a screenshot from the newsletter. And he will link to an NFT that corresponds with that report. So if it was email number 79, you'll click that link. It'll show you NFT trends number 79. And then he's been given away lifetime access. So like constant student, his business model is a recurring subscription, a couple of $100 or whatever it is every year, or $1,000, whatever his is, I can't remember. But you get a lifetime free for actually getting the bidding and buying the NFT.
Wow, that's smart. I like this.
Exactly. Yes. And so what would you ticket and give access to? Honestly, just like there's no limit. Like, is it coaching, right? So people have to own your NFT to get your coaching. Do they form a group? You know, the people who have actually all got this certain NFT part of a more niche and exclusive group. Constant student, we could do that pretty easy. We could have a committee who get to decide.
Hey, this is so
things.
cool.
Yes.
I'm like, sorry, keep going.
Yeah, I know, right? Extra workshops that are only available to people who have the NFT, access to early releases. I don't know, Oscar, any other ideas? Is this just, it's basically,
there's so many. Yeah.
It's so infinite. Like I can't map them all out. It has to, depends on what value there is to like your community or what you offer. If you're a musician, that will look different to a writer or a community builder, an education community. That's going to edit this. But it's just, this is the technology that like, it will scan the wallet looking for the NFT to give the access. It's not a Zoom link they can just pass to someone. It's adding the security. So, and then platforms will have to embrace it to keep up. Luma is probably an early one. Circle, who we use for constant student, probably will need to work on that soon.
Yeah, I'm sure Circle will be onto it. Just
I'm sure they will. I'm sure they will. Yeah. All right. Yeah, and just the difference, because you can obviously kind of give this, but security was a big thing. I actually didn't put that in the slides. But also just there's also the advantage of this compared to what happens now, where you can have Patreon and give membership, or, you know, subscription and give membership. Is also just, don't forget the emotional, psychological, like there's a greater sense of ownership. Think about, this might, I don't know if this will relate to other people, but like if there's one or two companies I've invested in, right? Even though it's not about the money, it just brings me more into their journey to support that sort of company. Because it's symbolic. It's not like money is what matters, but there's just this relationship that exists there. And what the money really does, investing in someone, is it formalizes that relationship a bit more. When things are free, it's just easy to do it when it's convenient. Things you offer for people for free are rarely like have a strong obligation, and you just do it when you're asked. That's the downside to free. Whereas when there is a sense of ownership, ownership is an incentive for people to be more engaged and get deeper into the journey, deeper into you. So that NFT example of mine before, right? People who own this are probably just going to be following my journey more, which means they'll probably have a deeper engagement with my writing and ideas. So not only is the money coming earlier, but probably the engagement and the investment in my journey, their personal buy-in is likely greater earlier because they've gotten on board. So that's incredibly powerful. They get plus that, plus the ownership also has this financial upside. But I think it's not about the money. I think for a lot of people, it's actually just symbolic.
Yeah. And people value, as you say, people value what they invest in.
Exactly.
So, and this is creating it so that it's like we all have pictures, or like people have posters in their room of like sports stars and stuff like this that they look up to. Like having that as a symbol, even for like birthday presents or stuff, it'll be so cool, you know, in the future.
Yeah.
Like, oh, Joe, I got you this NFT about Nassim Taleb. Like, check it out.
Yeah. It opens up a whole new world. Oscar, we're getting through number 4. This is an exciting one. So I know, I'll give you credit. You brought this up, so I'll let you go through it.
These sort of fall under a bracket called dynamic NFTs. And it's basically sort of written in the code sort of the NFT that, you know, once you say you collect 2 different NFTs, you can make those interact and they sort of produce a third NFT, or they give you a perk of some sort, right? So this has mainly been used in gaming, right? I mean, on screen's a great example of Pokemon, right? Same sort of concept. But yeah, this has mainly been used as a gaming concept in sort of the metaversal Web3 sort of ecosystem. But there's definitely sort of like exciting sort of opportunities that really haven't been explored at all beyond the game.
I couldn't find any examples of this relevant to writers, podcasters, musicians again, but it's very exciting. Look, it's a very simple example. This is a very simple imagination. If we had a Joe Weeby NFT, an Oscar Weeby NFT, and Liam bought them both, they might, if they were set up as dynamic, they might be able to breed and create a third conglomerate NFT, which obviously...
Do you have to, with that, the Weeby brothers, that's cool. Maybe the Weatherman and the Doorman, what would it be?
A door with a lot of rain.
Like, what do you think? Because that is really cool, but would you have to set that up before, or can the people make the dynamic change during it? So say, for example, I wanted to buy all the NFTs for Avengers. So Avengers came out and I have like Captain America, the Hulk, and everyone else. Then you have to set it up beforehand, because like say you had like Liam the dot connector, Joe the man, and Oscar the weatherman. And then you had like the constant student form of like Avengers that people could collect at the beginning. Like, would we have to set that up right at the beginning, or would we have to, can we do it like, the ideas just come to mind to bring this person into the team? Like,
no, I think my understanding is, I'm non-technical, obviously, disclaimer. My understanding is currently it's mainly you kind of have to need to set it up and how it's going to evolve. But this is a young space. Yeah. So if someone will develop something like that, I don't know. Might be a whole network, but it sounds very complex for you to be able to determine the evolution.
Yeah.
In these examples, I'm sure it's like, all right, me and Oscar get together. Oscar's got a huge following. I don't know. I've got no following. I want to benefit from that. What's a good way to transition his thing over? So, all right, let's agree to do this joint NFT line where you'll create one, I'll create one. And then when they merge, it creates this thing, right? Which is, I don't know. It's a visual and it has these benefits. I don't know, but it's, you know, you have to wrap the storytelling around it, why people are going to think this is cool and get behind it. and drum it up just like anything else. But that is probably the first examples. This is a new space. So if someone can come up with cool ideas in here, you'll probably pick up a lot of press in the online world. So yeah. All right. We'll go into like the crowdfunding example. Yeah. We're just going to skim over this because what we'll do, because obviously we have a community, like a proper formal community. The depth for this is a really good example. We'll go through for people in the community and they can kind of reach out and get a workshop together, get Oscar, myself, or anyone else working on this. But and obviously, because there's so much you can do, so there must be a lot going through. But we'll just skim through this. There are a lot of cool examples for crowdfunding. I think also maybe first I should define crowdfunding. It's where basically you, instead of say I'm Scott McEwen, good example, launched espresso displays, did a crowdfunding campaign using Kickstarter, where people who wanted a display, they, paid a down deposit, and that was the funds he used to actually go build, him and his co-founder Will, to actually go build the product. So if it was like $300 or something, it was cheaper than a full display. They got a discount, but they took 1,000 people's $300, used that money to build the first line of inventory and actually launch their idea and validate it. So crowdfunding is very common in charity. Just think of GoFundMe or anything like that. I'm building a school. Can everyone chip in $50? Then they funded it instead of having to go to one person to give them 20 grand or 30. So that's crowdfunding. So this is an exciting thing with NFTs and crowdfunding. Very exciting. So we'll run through a couple of examples. So the first is The Generalist, and I think they're a publication. So I actually don't know that much about them, but they partnered with Jack Butcher, who's a very well-known internet figure. And they turned, like, they were doing this brief about Coinbase, which is a platform for, what is it, Oscar? Trading and...
Yeah, it's a cryptocurrency exchange.
Yeah, that's the one. And they crowdfunded the project for it to happen. So anyone could own a piece of their analysis and the artwork that Jack Butcher made to correspond with it. And so the crowdfunders, people who got behind this project, they got a proportional stake, right? In like the brief they put together and the artwork. And then there was a 43% return given to the crowdfunders within weeks. So they obviously used it to fund it. There was proceeds for the project because they got to develop it, whatever they sold it or whatever it was, distributed it. And then people were actually able to get a return in weeks. So I don't know, Oscar, if we were going to do I'm trying to think of an example how we could apply this, but if we were going to do I don't know, maybe a big article on something and make it paid and have an artwork to go with it, it's basically like we could crowdfund it, crowdfund the research, use this to also build hype because it brings a lot of people really interested in it. I don't know, release it and sell it, whatever it is. And then we get the profits of selling it and we can redistribute to everyone who crowdfunded their share.
Yeah, it's great for sort of has brand benefits and also that incentive alignment again between contributors. Yeah.
One thing, Liam, I don't think anyone's done yet that I've seen, and I think what I'm going to do is use crowdfunding like this for my next book.
Oh, that was literally my next question. I was like,
that's why I read minds.
Yeah. I was like, an article, I could see that before, like a whole book. If someone like invested in a book, that's cool,
Well, think about if you got to buy a NFT in like the 4-hour work week or Atomic Habits or something like that, right? You're like, oh, this could 18 and loss. Like, oh, if this is going to become more and more valuable over time, I could sell this in 10 years for like millions and millions of dollars, which a 4-hour work week NFT now would sell for probably tens of millions of dollars.
Oh, your Harry Potter thing. Imagine J.K. Rowling, like at the start, man.
Imagine a Harry Potter NFT. That'd be worth billions.
Yeah. Like, I think the title of the thumbnail for this should be like, how J.K. Rowling could have made billions instead of millions.
I think she did make billions.
She made billions. I think she's like the richest woman in the world. I think.
Yeah. Well, she was at one point.
Yeah.
This is a second example. I've got four examples from this crowdfunding. Stoner Cats. It's pretty funny. So instead of going on Netflix or I don't know, even YouTube to watch this, what these guys did, and they some big names, Mila Kunis from That 70s Show and a whole bunch of movies, people from Toy Story 2, Happy Feet. They got together, they crowdfunded this show, this animated show they made called Stoner Cats, and then you've got to buy an NFT to watch it.
What? That's crazy.
Yeah. So obviously they originally funded it with NFTs, and then you also got to buy an NFT to actually watch it.
Is it an NFT or a token that you have to buy to watch it?
Purchase one of our collectible NFTs to watch the new series.
Oh yeah, no, you're right.
So that's why I figured.
But that's so good. Just go back. Sorry, just.
It's the same thing.
Oh no, but I'm just saying how they've also linked the Discord to watching the thing. Like I haven't seen that with TV shows or movies. Just like people geek out naturally, but like if the actual movie, when it's released, has a community and an NFT, like it could be so cool because then people go in straight afterwards because people are naturally just posting on YouTube and elsewhere around their reviews around movies. Yeah. But if there's like a specific hub, yeah.
And then this is basically same website, but it's just like the buy now. So it's basically what it looks like. So there's the price of going in. It's sold out. So you can build real scarcity. So what a great way to monetize people want to make it. So if we want to do a documentary, guys, about Constant Student, you know, instead of going through producers and all this sort of stuff, it's like, all right, if we have a concept people will watch, they'll back it. If we have this exciting journey where they can have a token. And again, if tokens have resale value, it's like they're investing in it. They're not even just being generous. They're not just paying in advance. So much of crowdfunding is just paying in advance and backing a story. Instead of just paying in advance, it can be an investment.
Joe, would you NFT the video that you created on Figma?
Oh, we haven't told people about that. That's building some suspense. I probably would. Yeah. I probably would. Look at Liam. He's going, look at that. Austin, he's going crazy with ideas now. The cogs are turning. Liam, but wait, game show line. There's more. So this is a third example of crowdfunding, the Electra crowdfund. It's all written there. I'll just read it. There's 42 musicians, artists, developers, and strategists. What a job. Together building Electra, interactive, choose your own adventure, Web3 game with music at its core. I don't know specifics of how the game works. Didn't find it incredibly relevant, so forgive me. To play the game though, I'm sure it's fun. You need to secure a portal ticket NFT in the crowdfund below. It's obviously over now, but this was what they did. The funds raised through this crowdfund will go entirely towards bringing this project to life. As this project evolves, the lines between creator and audience will blur. Game builders will play the game they are building, and game players will build the game they are playing.
Whoa, just say that again.
Game builders will play the game they are building, and game players will build the game they are playing. So it's almost like you reduce. So I'm trying to think of a practical example of this, but this is obviously completely hypothetical. So say I crowdfund my book, next book, right? Exponential Careers, something like that. And I create this, maybe they can access, I don't know if I could do this, but a portal where they can see me working on it. Maybe like a Google Doc where you can only comment. I don't know. But not edit, just suggestions. Or I can release bit by bit and that community can almost shape the book, right? Like this is what I'm thinking for this part, you know, and I'm doing a Q&A at the end of the month on this. So it's almost like reducing.
Build in public the whole time.
Yeah, it could be a dynamic version of that. This is my interpretation and potentially personal application of this idea of reducing the line between creator and audience. Not that you want consensus, it's just a thought experiment. Like technically something like that would be possible. That's not really the best, maybe not the best creative process, but also if it brings people into the experience, it creates this hype. So I just think that's really, so Taryn, right, Liam, you know, as a musician, you know, what could she do, right? With people who back a big video she makes, like her documentary or her next album or something like that.
Yeah.
And she can, you know, whatever, have that access to whatever feedback and interface for people who have supported through the NFT. It's mind-boggling. This, yeah, but wait, there's more. This is another one. So this is so like the example of like a niche platform, right? So Obscura is for photographers. This is beautiful, right? They go, many photographic stories are left untold for lack of funding. This platform is an opportunity to facilitate photographers to pursue their projects through the sales of NFTs. Right? So they give people commissions to produce their projects they want to do. There's a community for them. There's grant opportunities, and there's educational resources for the photographers. So it's almost like a niche version of Constant Student using NFTs, because it's kind of like they've got the whole ecosystem.
Yeah.
They submit a dream project, then have tiers of commissions awarded monthly. This is basically how it works. Photographers submit their dream project. We operate in seasons which span a total of 4 months. We have a 4-tier system of commissions that are awarded monthly. The curation team selects a series of photographers, into Obscura on a rolling basis. We offer mint passes for 4 tiers of commissions we are backing. So they choose the projects to back.
Yeah. Far out.
So Archie, who, you know, Archie, photographer, right? How does a photographer, I don't know, the typical photographer career journey, I imagine it's not too different from a filmmaker, where it's a lot of like doing stuff, I don't know, volunteering for curators and whatever.
Yeah, you will have to, like, getting started now, I would assume you almost have to work for digital marketing, because like marketing is where the money's at with photography, essentially. So there'll be less of that creative expression for a lot of them at the start.
So I'm thinking conventionally, like I remember from film, because that was an avenue I was going down. You had to go, I don't know, you're supposed to go be an extra to get some experience. So I cop what it was be like on set, maybe meet some people so you can graduate to being an actor, or volunteer as a crew to learn how to become a filmmaker. You had these rungs that were like loose pathway to follow. Now, if you got a vision, we're meeting people where they're at their vision level.
Yeah.
Not overcomplicating the networking that they need to do.
It's shortening that learning curve. It's taking like
hopefully
that
shortening the learning curve.
Yeah,
that's the idea. So summing up crowdfunding, right? Old versus new crowdfunding. This is our good friend Scott. Right? What's different? Right? So backers can profit from a project you do without having what's traditional equity, which just means like proper formal ownership. You can give people, you know, there's like, you can create a community where they own a part of it. I won't complicate people with the introduction of this DAO concept today, but you think of that almost like a community.
is that going to be next week's series? I'll be up for that.
Yeah, we will do one on DAOs. It's a better incentive alignment, obviously. Like we said, it just brings people way more into the experience. This is much like investing into a company. Someone else is a CEO, but because you're invested, you're like, oh, if I can help you with this, well, I don't know, I have a community of young people. Here's some digital marketers maybe to fill the role, right? It's like, this happens a lot in the startup investing world. It's a lot of relationship is more than a money exchange. There's a value exchange because you're invested in their success. And this takes that concept. I think it's a very good example and really spreads it, and it can be applied on the individual level. Right? Like Oscar, right? I think Oscar's going somewhere. But he doesn't have like millions of TikTok followers or 100 million, YouTube downloads or anything like that. But you go, this is someone's journey I'd back. And you can almost back it through their NFTs. So,
thanks, Jay.
Yeah, you're a convenient example, mate. Not necessarily.
No,
who knows if you were the best one. Anything to add on crowdfunding, Oscar? I got excited talking about those examples. I don't know if you.
I think Oscar would add that I am the best example right now.
Yeah, that's the only alteration I'd make, to be honest. No, but that's a definitely holistic sort of summary.
Yeah. So to summarize, it was crowdfunding. I don't know if I have a summary slide, but crowdfunding is one way. Breeding NFTs for the brave and the creative. Ticketing and access is relatively simple. Obviously, you have to have something to give. You can be creative with that. None of these are, hopefully this inspires creativity. This can't replace your creativity. Patronage Plus was number 2. I know this is a weird counting system. 100 true fans. And they're not mutually exclusive, right, Leah? You can combine all these kind of things together.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Right? I could give people access to Constant Student for buying my NFT. Right?
So NFT strategy will become its own consultancy then, with people
Absolutely.
like how you best monetize and bring it.
You know, our Figma video, this creates a whole bunch of jobs that don't exist yet.
Yeah. Man, this is the one thing that I've taken away from this is like the possibilities are like endless, but you just have to, it's just getting started. So like for me, what would be like an action is like,
well,
with my next Substack, yeah, or YouTube channel or YouTube video, creating one and just testing out the system, you know, and then you
see, this is the thing. If you're sitting here saying you're going to make one, I'm sitting here thinking, I probably want to be the one to buy it.
Yeah.
Right. And you think about it, and I'm not just saying it for the sake of the recording, because I'm like, well, so Oscar can talk to you about the concept of an undervalued stock. Oscar, let's just explain that, because that's pertinent.
Yeah.
I'll go back to this as an example.
So 2 sort of basic fundamentals of investing in anything is difference between price and value. Value is basically what you think the price should be, and the price is what it is today, right? So an undervalued stock would be one that's trading 10% under
Amazon is, you think Amazon's worth what?
4 grand.
Yeah, 4 grand.
Whatever.
And it's trading at 3,000.
Yeah.
Okay.
And again, in being an early adopter, young space like this, the asymmetric upside is insane, especially when you add community to it.
Yeah.
You know?
So this is like the concept of, like, if I look at someone like Liam doesn't have this widespread recognition at this point in time. Right. So this is what I mean, Liam, by like, all right, you're probably an undervalued stock. Like I just have such a high degree of certainty that an NFT attributed to you was going to have a lot more value in the future. So I'm sitting here thinking, yeah, I probably would buy it. Right. But this is the magic. We're just three, whatever, friends, family members, community members here. And so this is like the power of this, that if you have people who understand this concept in your relationship network, they are like probably the people who would like buy the first one.
Yeah, it's true. And because in the community aspect, you know each person so well because it's an ongoing relationship. It's not just a once-off. Then yeah, the community aspect to it, because I've seen Oscar for a year now. It hasn't just been one call. Then I see what he's capable of. Then I go, oh damn, when Oscar has that NFT, let's jump on it. Yeah. Wow. Okay, cool.
Yeah, that's a great example. This is why community is the bedrock. Because if you take Oscar, but he has no friends who understand this stuff, and he's saying, buy my NFT, and they're going, have you talked to Oscar lately? He's trying to sell us a JPEG.
That's exactly what they'd say.
Right. So I don't know. I know we are doing Constitution for a reason. We know that the community is like very prime placement, because this is the bedrock of all these new exciting concepts for your future. That again, and I just ram this home, right? You just think about this, these journeys, right? So you contemplate the power of actually being able to support people where they haven't gotten support. But it's not just that. It's 10 times better than welfare because it's not capped. But also, if someone buys your NFT, it's like, fuck, people believe in me. People are on this journey with me.
It's a way different feeling than if you were to donate to like Patreon, for example. I feel like, people
Precisely.
kind of feel good for me. I kind of feel, I don't know, with that system, some part of me feels a bit guilty, but with this system, I feel like that guilt
Empowered.
is replaced with the NFT, and it's like, okay, if it works for me, it works for them as well.
Yep.
Yeah.
Powerful.
Yeah.
Powerful. So that's the workshop. That's I guess the concept. And yeah, well, Oscar, remind people where they can find you. You'll be unpacking. That's one of the rabbit holes you'll be unpacking on your podcast.
Well, that is the first episode that's been recorded. So there's alignment there. But you can find it at www.oscarlevy.com. It was at the beginning of this video. It'll be in the description.
It'll be in the description. You can sign up on your website for newsletter and stuff like that and get that stuff. And then everything else, the community, if anyone's not aware of it, is Constant Student. That'll be in the links too, www.constantstudent.com.au. Community members will get resources and extra if you need help with this or anything like that. If you want to figure out how you can apply it, just reach out to us through the community space. Liam's in there too. He'll be doing a mad brainstorm after this, and
you can see.
So you'll be able to lynch his ideas. But yeah, if anyone wants to get started with this, then you're a promising young person. I will be pretty interested in buying some undervalued early NFTs in people. So check out the Constant Student. All right, is that all, Oscar? We're all done.
I just want to say, ask Joe, this was epic.
Yeah, I know, man. It's pretty cool.
Like and I'm not just saying that, like I'm saying in comparison, I had listened to like say Tim Ferriss's podcast on it in the car, like Tom Bialylew stuff, but like the clarity, the visuals that you got through this presentation, I think it's like, I felt like, so much clearer, and I've been in like more confidence, like getting into it, which is cool.
Well, great feedback. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, mate. All right. Awesome. Well, that will conclude it. See everyone else next time on the channel.